You're listening to the Rebuilding Sessions with your host, Daphne. The space is for restoration, renewal, and returning to the heart of God. Oh, the time is now to obey God. So before you start your day, let's rebuild God's house His way.
Adam and Eve were the first human beings on earth that God created, and they disobeyed God in the Garden of Eden when they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Due to their disobedience, a pattern of disobedience started in the bloodline. Shortly after Adam and Eve were removed from the garden, they started to have children, and Eve gave birth to Cain and Abel. The Bible does not go into detail concerning the lives of Cain and Abel as children, nor does it explain Adam and Eve's parenting skills. However, what we do know is, when it came time for Cain and Abel to give an offering to God, God accepted Abel's offering, but rejected Cain's. God refused Cain's offering because it was not given with a pure heart, and there was sin in Cain's heart. This rejection caused anger to rise up in Cain, and he set out on a mission to kill his brother. However, we find that God speaks to Cain in Genesis chapter 4, verse 6 through 7, which reads, "Then the Lord said to Cain, 'Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it.'" God always does his best to reach and warn us in various ways, but we must be in tune to his voice, or sin will crouch at our door as well. Cain did not obey the warning from God, and we find in Genesis chapter 4, verse 8 through 12, Cain's true motives. It reads, "Now Cain said to his brother Abel, 'Let's go out to the field.' While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, 'Where is your brother Abel?' 'I don't know,' he replied. 'Am I my brother's keeper?' The Lord said, 'What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." God was not pleased with Cain's choice, and Cain's disobedience cost him greatly. But this was not the end of the cycle, because Cain even went on to have children of his own, and the pattern repeated. In Genesis chapter 4, verse 23, it says, "Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, 'Listen to me, wives of Lamech, hear my words. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me.'" So let's unpack this cycle. First, it started with Adam and Eve when they disobeyed God in the garden. Next, Cain killed his brother. Then Lamech, who is the son of Methuselah, which is Cain's great-great-great-grandson, slew a man and followed in the footsteps of Cain's disobedient ways. Even today, we find that children are repeating the patterns of their family members, and we often tell our children, "You act just like your uncle," or "You act just like your father." It is because the pattern is being repeated until someone in the family breaks the cycle. Paul speaks about the warnings of repeating the patterns of our ancestors and how we are to learn from them and not repeat what they have already done. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1 through 12, it says, "For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud and that they all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. Nevertheless, God was not pleased with most of them. Their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Now these things occurred as examples to keep us from setting our hearts on evil things as they did. Do not be idolaters, as some of them were. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. We should not commit sexual immorality, as some of them did. And in one day 23,000 of them died. We should not test Christ, as some of them did, and were killed by snakes. And do not grumble, as some of them did, and were killed by the destroying angel. These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the culmination of the ages has come. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. These are Paul's warnings, and it is important for us to take these warnings to heart. It is time to come out of repeated cycles of idolatry, perversion, dysfunction, and abuse. Before we close out today's podcast, do you notice any repeated patterns or cycles in your bloodline? Is everyone alcoholics? Does everyone have diabetes? We must identify the repeated cycles in our family that need to be broken. We must break the patterns and stop the same cycles as our ancestors. You can be the curse breaker in your family, and it will require dedication and determination. Let me leave you with this verse. Philippians chapter 4, verse 13 says, I can do all things through Christ, who strengthens me. Well, that will be all for today. I appreciate your support. And if you would like to follow me on other social media platforms, I am on YouTube and TikTok.